Welcome to Pivotal Point Battles, where we break down single battles that shaped history. Today, we're at Gaugamela, 331 BC, a showdown between Alexander the Great and Darius III, where one perfectly timed strike helped pull down the Persian Empire. But here's the twist. This battle was largely decided before the famous cavalry charge. This is the story of geometry, nerves, and the moment Persia's center of power slipped away. On one side stands Darius III, King of Kings, ruler of an empire stretching from Egypt to the edges of India. He brings a vast army, infantry, cavalry, and lines of scythed chariots meant to terrify. On the other side, Alexander of Macedonia, younger and outnumbered, but leading a seasoned professional force. His men have marched and fought together for years. They don't just fight as individuals, they move as one organism. Darius chooses his battlefield with care. A flat, open plain near Gaugamela. He even has the ground cleared and leveled, so his chariot wheels won't catch on rocks or uneven soil. For Persia, this is ideal. Space to spread out. Use cavalry to envelop and turn sheer numbers into crushing power. For Alexander, it looks like a trap, unless he can turn this perfect open field into a geometric puzzle and make Darius overplay his hand. Alexander's center is built around the Macedonian phalanx, dense blocks of infantry with long sarissa spears. Their job isn't glory charges. Their job is to stand firm, absorb pressure, and keep the line intact. On his right flank, Alexander positions his elite companion cavalry, the heavy horse that will deliver the decisive blow. Alexander himself rides here, right where he expects the turning point to unfold. On the left, the veteran General Parmenion commands more cavalry and infantry. His mission is simple but vital. Hold the flank, prevent encirclement, and keep the Macedonian line from being rolled up. The Persian deployment emphasizes width and shock. In the center, Darius gathers infantry and scythed chariots, designed to tear through tight formations and turn ordered ranks into chaos. On T-flanks, huge cavalry wings wait to sweep around Alexander's smaller army, pinning him from the front and crushing him at the sides. On paper, Darius has every advantage, but Alexander has a plan. As the armies get closer, the center becomes a storm. The Macedonian phalanx walks forward under a hail of arrows and javelins, shields up, spears bristling, watching the Persian chariots waiting just ahead. Those scythed chariots are designed to frighten as much as to kill. Blades on the wheels, horses at full gallop, meant to slice through packed ranks and turn formations into shredded lines. But Alexander has drilled his infantry for this. When the chariots charge, the phalanx doesn't panic. Units open gaps, letting chariots roar through empty lanes, while side troops strike at the horses and drivers. Once the chariots lose speed, their shock is gone. They're just carts with horses in the middle of hostile infantry. The real fight becomes tight and brutal. Spear to spear, shield grinding on shield, as the phalanx pushes forward step by step. For the average soldier, this doesn't feel like clever strategy. It's deafening noise, dust in your mouth, and the hope that if you hold your place in the line, someone above you actually knows what they're doing. While the center grinds forward, Alexander begins the move that will decide the battle. On his right, he advances diagonally forward and to the right, sliding his entire wing across the field. He never turns his back, never breaks formation. The Persian cavalry facing him must respond. If they stand still, he'll turn their flank. So they shadow his movement and match his slide. As they stretch to keep up, the Persian front grows longer and thinner. Stretch a line far enough, and it doesn't snap immediately. It develops soft spots. Coordination falters. Units drift apart, and between the Persian center and left, a subtle but real seam appears. Alexander isn't evading battle. He's reshaping the battlefield, pulling at the Persian front like a rope until it thins, waiting for exactly this weak point to open. When the seam is wide enough, he changes direction. Alexander halts the sideways drift and pivots inward, ordering his companions into a sharp wedge with himself at the tip. Trumpets sound. The wedge surges forward, driving straight into the gap between the Persian center and left. Aim toward the sector where Darius and his royal guard stand in their chariot. That part of the Persian line is already strained. Some units brace, some wait, and others break as the compact wedge punches through the seam like a lance through stretched cloth. From his chariot, Darius sees the wedge bearing down on him and hears that his flanks are under pressure. He faces a brutal choice: stand and risk capture, or flee and hope to rebuild later. He chooses to flee. His chariot turns, his guard rides with him, and the message is unmistakable. When the king leaves the field, it isn't just one man departing. It's the center of the army's confidence collapsing. Meanwhile, on the Macedonian left, Parmenian's wing is under enormous pressure. Persian cavalry there are still trying to wrap around and smash the flank. Parmenians, Thessalian cavalry, some of the finest riders in Greece, are locked in swirling duels with Persian horsemen, fighting not for glory, but simply to stop a breakthrough. Messengers reach Alexander. The left may collapse. He's just broken the Persian front and sent Darius on the run, but he still has to choose: chase the king, or stabilize his own army. Alexander chooses his army. He breaks off the pursuit, turns his cavalry, and rides back toward the crisis on the left, choosing stability over the immediate thrill of capturing Darius. His arrival slams into the Persian cavalry pressing Parmenion, relieving the pressure at exactly the right moment. The Macedonian left holds, and the Persian momentum there disintegrates into retreat. By the end of the day, the field of Gaugamela is Alexander's. Darius is gone, and the Persian army in fragments. Some units surrender, others scatter in all directions. How was this possible? Ancient writers boast of Persian armies in the hundreds of thousands. Modern estimates are more modest, but Darius likely still had numerical superiority at Gaugamela. But what Alexander had was cohesion. His infantry and cavalry had trained together, understood their roles, and trusted that strange-looking orders, like sliding diagonally across a battlefield, served a larger design. He also had a faster command tempo. Riding with his cavalry, he could see the lines stretching, spot the seam forming, and commit the wedge at the precise moment the Persian front was weakest. Darius faced the opposite problem: a vast, multi-ethnic army spread across a wide plain, with different languages, armor, and local traditions. Coordinating it all under the stress of battle was incredibly difficult. Alexander's so-called oblique movement wasn't magic. It was a way to force an error, to pull the Persian line out of shape, create a structural weak point, and then hit that point with a concentrated, disciplined shock force. Gaugamela shows that numbers and terrain matter, but so do training, trust, and timing. A smaller army with a clear plan and tight coordination can punch far above its weight. After Gaugamela, Alexander keeps marching east and builds his legend. He moves quickly to cash in on the victory. He advances on Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, the political, financial, and ceremonial pillars of the Persian state. City by city, local elites calculate the odds and decide that defiance is suicide. Gates open, treasuries and administrative systems are handed over. The machinery of empire begins to run under Alexander's control. Empires rarely vanish from a single sword stroke, but once the center cracks, once the ruler flees, and the army's shape dissolves, the fall can look sudden, even if it was a long time coming. Gaugamela is a reminder that the turning point of a war can be a matter of geometry and judgment: where you stand, how fast you decide, and whether your army can follow when it counts. If you enjoyed this breakdown from Pivotal Point Battles, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if there's a battle you'd like us to cover, drop your request in the comments below. Thanks for watching.